Now, there are certainly people who have had horrific experiences and terrible things done to them. And I've had some things myself like this. And they are excused for not knowing whether it's extraterrestrial or man-made, because who would know this? But at the same time, there are people who should know this or have known it who have covered it up. And this we cannot allow any further. This has got to be called out. The other problem is when you have people like Dr. Bell who have been having these experiences, we have to understand that there are some very, very good people out there speaking about information, experiences they've had that they do believe to be extraterrestrial. That, in fact, and I'm thinking now of a man I haven't met, but who is a wonderful gentleman from all accounts, a guy named Corey Good, and who's doing the Full Disclosure Project, and he and I are like hand in glove, supportive of many things, but some of the things he's recounting about slave trade and slave planets and things of this that he experienced because he was, as a 6 or 7 year old, I understand, taken into the military abduction program, like Dr. Bell. And I have no doubt he believed that those events were extraterrestrial. But I think that what I want people to understand is we have to be very careful about our assessment of what's out there in the universe based on people who have been in these programs who are, and I know that there was an executive at Gaia TV who was furious that I used this word, but who have been victims of this. And I don't think it's wrong to say if you're a 6 or 7 year old child and you're taken into a military abduction program and have stuff done to you, you've been a victim. I know that there are other people. I know Dr. Bell was a victim. Now, this is not to say that the person is a bad person or a wrong person. It's just to say that we have to look at what is being shared and understand that there could be information that is accurate, information that might have been scripted, information and experiences that have been had that have been programmable. So the holographic psychotronic systems that have been in existence since the 50s would allow for people, and have allowed for people, to have experiences that they 100% believe. Just as the man told me, people would believe that they were, if they had a conversation with their personal God, they'd pass a lie detector. They are sincere about what they're reporting. There is no, I'm not saying any deceit is in play. What I'm saying is that it would be very easy to deceive somebody who's a child or a young adult with these fearsome weapon systems and technologies that are in the hands of absolute psychopaths. I mean, true psychopaths in the covert programs. And I know who some of these folks are, and they will stop at nothing to see that people are convinced that there is a threat, as Ronald Reagan said at the United Nations, that we should unite against and fight, to unite the world around. And all I have to say is that if the future is that future, you might as well dig a hole and climb in it. So we better wake up and understand that the information that is out there has to get looked at from many perspectives. What's the origin of the experience? Was it deep, unacknowledged special access projects that hoaxed it? Is that person having an experience with an extraterrestrial, interstellar civilization, an entity from another dimension that's not extraterrestrial, which is also out there? A scripted program from the intelligence community using these very advanced technologies that have been in development for 70 or 80 years? What is it? And it's not, I'm not trying, you have to ask these questions. And you have to begin to understand that there is a capacity to use this sort of information in a way that would redound to whom? the military, industrial, gangbangster, global complex of fascists that are desperate to have World War III be interplanetary. Now, this is why when you start talking about this issue of false INW, indications and warnings, deceptive indication and warnings, false flag, it's a very deep hole to go down. And what I would encourage people to do is to question what part of this, what they are learning, seeing, has been programmed into our society, and many times innocently has been piggybacked on people. One more level of what I call this, so I've gone through the aircraft that are anti-gravity, the electromagnetic weapon systems, and now the human intelligence. There are a lot of people who have had actual ET contact experiences that when that is known by the intelligence community, and I've had this confirmed to be by multiple independent corroborating sources, are then targeted by the intelligence community with a man-made abduction event to confuse them. And so that they don't know what part, where did the ET event end and the man-made one start. Do you understand what I'm saying? That has been done because everything is tracked. Everything is tracked. When these events happen that are ET, the intelligence community absolutely knows it's happened anywhere on the planet, and they can come in with a special operations team and then victimize that person who's had contact with an ET with a man-made, hoaxed alien encounter. So it gets very complex, and I regret to inform you that this is not something that is new. It's been talked about actually since the 70s and 80s by various people, but it's been hushed up. Hushed up by the UFO subculture, hushed up by the intelligence community. And the reason for it is that people don't want their paradigms changed. I think a lot of it is people don't want their belief systems challenged. And this gets into the last part of what I want to share before we take a break, which I'm sure you all need by now. And that is, let's look at the roots of human conflict. If you go back thousands of years, there is a connection that we have, millions of years, with other primates. We're 98% identical to chimpanzees and gorillas. And it's been found that chimpanzees and other monkeys do organize into troops that fight each other based on territory, based on differences, based on otherness, even if they look a little different. What are the roots of racism? What are the roots of homophobia? What's the roots of ethnic conflict? Why is this? This is the real original sin of Homo sapiens, of humans. Why do we view anything that is other than us as a threat? Well, there is some biological evolutionary specialists have said, well, this was done because there was an evolutionary advantage to groups that were forming socially to be able to dominate a territory, what have you, and another one would be a threat, so they'd get into fights and war them off, and it's very territorial. But now that we're in a civilization with thermonuclear weapons and anti-gravity and electromagnetic weapons and scalar weapons and all this, we have to have a spiritual awakening, in my opinion, where we realize that we can transcend all these isms. And I want to add another ism, alienism. Alienism, as I'm going to define it tonight, is the proclivity to view anything that is non-human, but an intelligent life form, as a potential threat. And the threat is directly proportional to how different they either appear or behave from us. This is rooted in thousands of years of human experience, where one tribe would attack and rape another, one ethnicity, one religion. So whether it's homophobia, Islamophobia, religious, ethnic, racist tendencies, these have a root that go back thousands of years in human experience. And they have found that when you develop a behavior like that, epigenetically, it is passed on within a generation or two, not thousands of years. But it means, this is the good news, you can reverse it in a generation or two. We can reverse racism. We can reverse alienism. We can reverse all of these things that have divided us into warring factions. And guess what? We have to. It is a requirement of our survival. We can no longer live as a species that views anything that we don't understand or is different from us as a priori immediately a threat and get into a fight with them. Whether it is another race, another gender, another sexual orientation, another ethnicity, or another species from another planet. Because that only ends in destruction. Now, when we were just clubbing each over the head with, clubs and spears and stuff, or muskets even, it was one thing to behave this way. It was deleterious and appalling and savage. To do it with thermonuclear weapons and these other classified weapons, and then to start bamming around out in space with this consciousness of alienism and division, is fraught and very risky. So I would say that, we shall overcome this. We must overcome it. It is in our collective experience as humans, but we can also overcome it through the force of our intellect, through spiritual development, and through the realization that within the field of conscious intelligence, there's a singularity of mind, and that all life in the universe and all intelligent life is awake through that same spirit. Doesn't matter who they are, where they are. And if we view ourselves and these other civilizations with the understanding of what the conscious mind is as an omnipresent field that is non-local, that there is a singularity of consciousness in mind. As Erwin Schrödinger said, the total number of minds in the universe is one. This is the father of modern quantum physics. And we begin to experience that in our meditation, our prayers, and our spiritual consideration. And this is why I think the crisis we're in, as complex as all this is, I've tried to go through a quick trip in 2 hours. The solution is, well, not simplistic, simple. It is spiritual. It's a spiritual development. Not necessarily religious. I mean, I sort of make a distinction. Sometimes there's an inverse relationship between religiosity and spirituality. That's Greer's theorem. But not to say that not all religious people are not spiritual, but I'm just saying that if you're a fanatic religiously, you tend to not be very spiritual. And it becomes divisive. I mean, how many wars are we fighting over religious differences, which when you boil it down is ridiculous. So I think that we have to go deeper than that. But if we're now having to deal with interstellar civilizations that are waiting for us to join the interstellar club and the interstellar society, which is what's been happening for many decades, we're going to have to find a solution to this thinking, this paradigm of division, of racism and alienism, that the intelligence community, the bad actors here, not the good guys, but the bad actors have been exploiting because they know there is a history of people hating and fearing and fighting anyone that is different from them, whether it's a different sexual orientation and bashing gay people, or a different race with slavery, or a different gender and the suppression of women, or a different religion, on and on and on. And they know that they can exploit that. And they have been exploiting it. And we have to stand up and wake up and say, no more. We won't be fooled again.